Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting from the Pine Hills Palace in the Extreme Studios, just west of Orlando, Florida. We got from the Great Midwest, just north of Tulsa, one RDV. RDV, tonight we're talking, of course, about Season 2, Episode 9, the next to last episode of this wonderful, interesting show with Sylvester Stallone and a few other people in here, too. And a lot to talk about here tonight. Hopefully you're not getting a big shootout where you're at, because we definitely have them here in Pine Hills, a.k.a. Crime Hills, Slime Hills, Chopper City, GTF 5, whatever you want to call it, Florida Man territory. Give it to me. Episode 9.
I was going to say, well, there's crime to the north of me always, every night.
That would be Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
That would be Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee.
All righty then. Well, Milwaukee doesn't have horse farms, but in Tulsa King we do, because that's a very central plot. I will say this for my quick review. It's not a surprising episode. I don't think it's very intense. It just feels kind of light to me. I'm really looking forward to the next episode to see how they pivot. So this was more of a, we knew we were going to throw some things up. It threw up. Now let's see what the aftertaste is going into season 3.
For me, I kind of disagree. Actually, even though I called it, as far as the 3 people getting together and going to comment on me, I just did it. My thing is that now that I knew that and they went with that, where are they going with Chickie? Like I said, and so let's just jump into this. We get to see a couple different things going on here. We get to see Tyson and his mom and his dad basically healing, and his dad called up Tyson and his mom at the same time, and he said, "You know what? This shit's got to stop. I nearly died, and this." It puts everything in perspective. You know what they say in the hood? What?
Make it right.
Right? Right? That's it. Did you get that from Dr. Dre?
I'm in Pine Hills, bro.
Yeah. All right. So you got that from Miami Connection.
Correct. Check that out here on the Extreme Movie Show.
What they call the Miami Dragons?
Anyway.
Anyway, yes. Going back. So... yeah, so we get a nice, closure with that, because so I'm figuring, like, what's going on with that? Because they keep making me think they're gonna bump Tyson off, because Tyson, almost got his dad almost got blown. It was meant for Tyson, and then Tyson makes peace with his mom, and I'm just thinking, like, Tyson's kind of had quite a few close calls so far.
It's not a hell of a lot of great dressing, because I pointed out many episodes ago, he's seriously upped his game, and today he's pimping 100% hard. The suits he has and everything, I'm like, that's not something that they show, but you're looking at it going, my God. So I think they're making him front and center. You know what happens when you come front and center, don't you?
Yes, you get bumped off.
Well, we'll see. We'll talk about that here.
And honestly, yeah, so that's going on. That's a nice little side story they wrapped up. They didn't really nothing else to do with the main story.
Well, let me ask you something about that, though, because I thought this is an interesting point that you mentioned here with the families looking like they're reconciling. Tyson's family, right, the father.
Yes.
What do you make of what's the purpose, you think, of the family, the father not dying, the family reconciling there with Tyson and all that? In other words, they're keeping him around. Why do you think that is?
That's the thing. Are they keeping around, though? We don't know how long. Because from the very beginning, this show... we could argue it's about Manfredi, but I feel like it's more like Tyson. Tyson became his driver. Tyson has had the most screen time. So
maybe he'll end up being the Tulsa King.
I feel like the most powerful character death, if they did a character death, would be Tyson. And I really hope they're not going that direction, because Tyson's been holding this show together, as far as, he's the glue. He's the innocent guy in all this, and he said, we watched the rise of him becoming a gangster, and then we see him. He finally has his first setbacks because he makes a bullheaded move, and now everything. He basically learns his actions have consequences, which his father basically was trying to instill into him. And I said I love the guy who plays his father. I think his name is Michael Beach or Mark Beach.
Okay.
Very awesome guy. He always plays those kind of roles. He played the same type of role when he was over in The Rookie, whenever he guest stars on there. Very, very awesome character to have around. But so I feel like I said, they're gonna go. They're putting Tyson front and center, especially for this. They might bump him off. We only have one episode left. This whole episode is basically the gang war. And instead of having another war, we have a sit down because Cal Thresher goes and dropped that bomb to to Frank Grillo's character, or Belushaloo, or I can't remember his name. It's Bevilacqua, I think it's
Ben.
Is it Bevilacqua?
Bill.
Bevilacqua.
BB.
Yeah.
Not to be mentioned with BB King, but BB. Yep.
Yeah. So they have a sit down inside, they have like old fashioned, where in alley we have two cars pull up, headlights
in the rain.
Big deal. In the rain. Cal gets in. He's got his cowboy hat. He sits down, and you get this cool, awesome angle from side of Frank Grillo's left face, and then you see Cal getting in, and it's just like, oh, it's just so great. Like, I love the scenery, how the camera moves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of Michael Mann stuff. That's I'm noticing a lot more. Whenever you see a car pull up, and you see the wheel first, and then you put
and it's
back.
not serious note. Some people would argue that using a lot of water because the way it reflects the light off the streets, and of course the camera angle shooting tires, he somehow managed to get a foothold on it. Something Miami Vice made very popular, and Thief with Michael Mann, the movie.
Also, this episode's very, very dark. Not only just in lighting, but what happens in this episode.
And at night, there's not a lot of sunshine in this episode. Literally,
no. And that was done on purpose.
Exactly.
It's such a dark episode. And so those two have a meeting, and he says, like, and Cal's like, he's like, we need these. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I told you to get away from this guy. It's bad news. Well, I need your help. And he's like, and I need, and then the guy's like, well, you started a war. He's like, I should put a bullet in your head. And he's like, well, I have a way to stop this. And so Cal ends up going over to, Dana Delaney's place, the horse ranch farm. And we get to see a shot of basically another scene of her interacting with, I think it's Sistine Stallone. I can't remember. I'm not sure which daughter it is, but one of Stallone's daughter, who's
blonde,
really, really tall.
Yes.
Or she's just really short. The other Jimmy Delaney. But either way,
there's a lot to unpack, I think, in this scene. But go ahead.
It is, yes. So they have a nice talk about that. The two girls talk about, he's like, I don't really want to do this. It's like, don't worry, you're doing a good job. It's like, and then they interrupted because Cal Thresher shows up, and she's like, and immediately you see her go from happy to sour, and he starts speaking to her, and we finally get to hear more about her backstory, Jamie Delaney's characters, and what her relationship with Cal Thresher is. So basically, back in the day when her husband left her, he basically wanted to take the farm, and he basically left her financial ruin. Cal Thresher loaned her money.
Yes.
So that's how she knows, and then she even knows about the Triad.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows about this.
I said she was going to be the thing behind it all, and it's still plain. This actually implicates her in everything that we talked about. She's just not there as a romance angle.
Yeah. So anyway, so basically, she knows about the Triad thing, and so Cal says, well, it's like, I need you to put reach out to Manfredi, and then we went to him and Bevilacqua or whatever, or basically want to have, exact same time, BB.
I know, but it's Bevilacqua, so I just say BB.
Yeah. So they want to have a sit down, and she's like, no. It's like, well, no, I can't, do that. He's like, and she's like, it's going to affect my farm. He's like, yeah, it's going to affect your farm. It's going to affect all of us. He wants everything. So she goes to see Stallone at the casino bar or whatever, and they have they talk, and then she finally convinces him. He sits down with the other two. Cal pitches his idea and stuff, and it's just a show of power. Stallone is just like oozing alpha. These two were kind of like squirming in they basically they have give them a couple like hours to think about it. Meanwhile, we go back to basically Dwight's home. Cash flow. Basically shows up and basically tells them, hey, you got a visitor. We don't get to see who it is. They cut away from this.
Yes.
Meanwhile, what's going on in this episode is that we see Armand in the beginning episode had been trying to leave in his van and he couldn't
Comes
leave.
to the crossroads.
Crossroads, yes, and he
Literally.
cowers, and he basically makes a U-turn, almost causing an accident, and drives back. So
He tried
Armand is basically like losing it. Armand then, and you see, then we also see it later on in the episode, we see Armand going to the weed farm where the Triads are and talking to Jamie King. He says, "Hey, I can give you dirt on where Dwight is. Dwight's been a problem, it's like, I can't, I'm not a killer, but
he plays
you are."
a sniveling bitch so good.
It's like, you just hate Armand more and more. So he says, like, I know how to get to him. I know where he stays at night. I know the ranch like the back of my hand. He's going to be over at Jamie Delaney's ranch. So that's going on. But the very beginning of this episode, though, there was a nice funeral for Jimmy. And then we get to see Old Smoke, who is, I guess, another actor. He's been in a few other things before this.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I almost thought it was the old guy from Haven. News reporter.
I know it did look like him, but it wasn't.
It looked like a whole lot.
Wow.
But no,
Haven
but
reference.
so, but anyway, so basically, like at the end of the funeral, we learn that Jimmy's tribe, all the nations have come together and they want revenge. They give Stallone a tomahawk, and you know where this is going. I'm like, oh shit. Someone's getting killed at tomahawk.
I can put it to good use someday.
Yeah. So
that's so obvious.
I love this. So this is going on. Meanwhile, while all this shit's going on, we have Chickie's. We get to see to him in his office. He's got this nice spread in his mansion, nice thing, and just like, wow.
It's actually the best looking house that we've seen in the whole show.
For those who watched the last Justified, the one where it takes them to Detroit, where and they go to rob that one guy. He wants to get the painting. The guy has that huge mansion with the big picture window behind him. He has a desk. It almost looks like the same scenery. It might be. Who knows? So Chickie gets a phone call from Vincent. He's like, "Hey, there may be a way for you to get back, where you were, power again, But we need this from you. We need you to go to Tulsa. We need you to go talk to Dwight. Dwight doesn't respect me. But you have a chance, to make things right with Dwight, because we need that money. Without Dwight, there's no Tulsa. So Chickie basically calls the airport.
This is the only funny scene.
Oh my
episode. This was funny.
I was laughing because he calls and he's like, "You're on a no-flight list. Did you have you get arrested?" He's like, and you can see.
Like, yeah, but that was bullshit. It was a misunderstanding. All right, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, you really much.
So tremendous.
So he's like, crap. So I'm like, so at this point, if he's gonna get there, he has to drive there or get some other means of transportation. But every time Chickie, like I said, this was that scene stood up because he's just eating a freaking sandwich.
He's pounding this big, huge thing while he's talking. It's talking.
Oh, and then he's just sitting there. And every time I look at him, he's like his huge freaking fingers are on that little phone. Like they must give him a small phone to make it, make it
to make his hands look big. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and I love that scene. And he's just sitting there. He's like almost like he's got that what's the guy who's doing the Kingpin, the actor now, Vincent or D'Onofrio.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm talking about Chickie is like could be like his younger brother. Like he just seems like he's that kind of out of.
He's a burly chested individual.
Yes. So anyway, I'm trying to think what else before we get to the main thing. So
I've got a few things.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's definitely a lot of all the different lines that we talked about came out, and there's a few I want to go back and just revisit and touch up a little bit. Where I said I thought a lot was going on at the ranch scene, like I said before, or I just briefly mentioned that Danny Delany is now implicated with the history of all of them. So that was nice that they actually acknowledged it rather than just leaving us there. I did think that the sniveling bitch Armand going back to the Triad guy,
Jimmy King guy, Jackie King, sorry.
Yeah, it was an interesting exchange in that Armand really does a great job here as just a guy that's losing it because there's two scenes where he loses it really, and potentially a third. And this one here where he's like, "Oh, so you come to me because I'm a killer. You can't do it." And he goes, "No, I would never be able to question you on that, sir." And it's like, oh, he's just such an ass kisser, but it's legit. You can really feel fear coming out of him. You can really see him almost pissing
definitely.
his pants. And so the guy doesn't kind of want to believe him, but he's like, I can show you where everything goes down, where he's vulnerable and all that. He's basically trying to find some way in because we talked about how he might seem suicidal and all that. So it's interesting how he's trying to still have some sort of value to somebody. And the other thing that was interesting about, I think, some of the earlier scenes is that obviously when Stallone gets the hatchet from the Indian tribe, you know that's going to be a factor. Okay, we know it's coming there. How it does, we'll talk about in a minute. But a couple other things that stick out to me is like, okay, this is the 9th episode. Are they going to save the Big Bang shootout like we've talked about in season 1 for the 10th episode or the 9th? Or are they going to have 2 of them? It appears that they may have 2 because we do have a big one here in a moment. But overall, like I say, for me, some things were hit and miss because we get to see a little bit of talking about when they're driving, and I thought this was kind of funny because I was wrong. There's a second funny thing where, of course, Dwight. Manfredi is Manfredi, Dwight, and so the Indians guy's like D. White, and he's like, yeah, Dwight, and he's like D. White, and you're like, what the hell? And he just kind of draws like a little sign, like you're the white man, and so then Tyson's busting his chops, and made me go, okay, is Tyson going to get wild because he's loose now? Because there was a little while where Tyson was being like a bitch, and we're like, is he gonna turn on him or not, or what? What's he doing? Totally not that way right now. So again, if you haven't watched the show and haven't seen the characters now, they're slightly changing or they're different sides to it, you're missing out on it. So it's very subtle, and hearing about it's not the same as seeing it. But I thought the car ride was kind of funny, and then the guy that I don't trust, that's the brains in the back, I can't remember his name. I guess, where he's pissed now. The weed guy with the glasses. He wants like revenge and all that too. And they're like, man, shut the fuck up. Like, you really want to whatever. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. There's a lot of stuff being set up here, but again, it just feels kind of like, okay, get on with it already.
Right.
Because we're going to get up to one of the final scenes here. And the one thing that stands out when they're having the sit down under the table is Dwight's like, I'm way past talking here. And he reaches in his pocket slowly, his right hand under his left jacket lapel, like he pulls out like a gun, and he's got the finger gun going out, and he just points at him and he says, I'll catch you later or whatever. And it's like, you definitely can feel in there that these two guys are just smaller, like they somehow are big in the area that they're in, but of course they don't know how to handle the triads. We talked about BB having a little bit, I think, of a man crush on Dwight in the way he's got some grudging respect about him. So I think Frank Grillo's character is a hell of a lot more interesting than Cal's. Cal's a smart guy, and when he had to sit down in the car with BB earlier, I was like, oh, just now you figured out a way to fix it? It took you to take the secret meeting to kind of figure it out? I'm like, that just seemed kind of weird. But anyway.
This has always been a campy show from the very get-go, so it's kind of like Justified. There's the ones who think they're gangsters, and then there is the gangster. And that's Stallone is the gangster.
This is the first time you really described that way, because I have not seen Justified, but that's kind of like what it seems like.
Justified, Harlan County in like Kentucky, basically, all these little methods, there's these people who think they're controlling stuff. And then here comes Raylan Giffen, the U.S. Marshal, basically. He's like, a bunch of fucking idiots. He's got to deal with every single freaking day. You know, and he tells them, don't pull on me, I'll shoot you dead. And they pull on him, he shoots them dead. It's the same kind of tongue-in-cheek humor. Yeah. And then you throw in Boyd Crowder, who is actually like an actual, kind of comes off crazy, but he's actually a intellectual match for Raylan, and that's Walter Goggins is the actor. As I said, if you've not watched Justified, man, I would love to review that on this channel. With you.
Yeah, you mentioned that before, and it seems like it's an interesting show. I think that the character parts of it are interesting because, like Chickie, I was tired of making him seem like a bitch. I loved how his family's basically taking his ass over. Now I'm like, this is refreshing, right? Because we do see him on a train going to Tulsa, looking out the window. I'm like, okay, this is getting interesting. Finally, after 2 seasons with Chickie. But back to the whole man hands on the sandwich thing with the phone. I'm looking at that sandwich. I'm like,
he's just sitting there like, he's just.
I was in New York one time, and was in Little Italy and eating a sandwich, and I don't know the names of all the sandwiches, but it's basically like the hard loaf bread that you split in half, and you have the oil on it and the pesto, and you have a little bit of basil and tomato, and then you have some ham on there, and you just smash it together, and like it fits in both your hands. So it's not like these subs that are all cheap ass white
No.
bread and like 2 slices of meat. And I'm looking watching
yeah.
him, and I'm like, it's funny him like dealing with the lady on the phone because we hear her, right? That's the funny part to it.
Yeah.
And it's that frustration we'll have when we're dealing with these people on the phone. I'm sorry, sir. It's unfortunate. There's nothing I can do for you at this time. Go fuck yourself. And he's just chomping away at this fucking sandwich. It really is a funny scene.
And that's the thing. It's like Dwight, just like Manfredi, Stallone's character is a smart aleck and says what he wants to say. He doesn't sugarcoat bullshit. Neither does Chickie. Chickie is like I said, kind of like Dwight in that sense, where he's not afraid to to call out the stupid people,
Right.
So I said it's refreshing to see that, because imagine being a gangster in 2024. You're surrounded by morons. You thought it was bad back in the 70s, but now it's just like you got to deal with people with the pronouns, and they want to enlist in your gang. Hell no, get this pull grown out. Yeah, it's frustrating, and I love how the show demonstrates that. The Godfather being made today. You cringe at that, but that's kind of what you're seeing a preview of, and that's what these guys are making fun of. They're these old school gangsters. Like, if you had a sequel on the Godfather, Marlon Brando would, if you're still alive, and that these guys would be like, "What the fuck is this bullshit? All these kids, they whine, they need. It's like, kill them all. I don't want no kids around here." It's like, yeah. It's like I said, like this show is such a fresh of breath air because there's no other show like it right now.
So RDV, there's a couple things here with Tulsa King that I know with the scenes that you've been talking about. I wanted to kind of back up and get caught up on a little bit, just made a few little observations on, because I know we kind of differ a little bit about this episode, whereas I thought it was a little bit just kind of get to the point. You were like, no, I really enjoyed this episode. I do too, and I just was wondering, are they just going to have a big shootout here for episode 9? Or are they going to have one in the 10 for the final episode? So we'll get to that in a minute, because definitely we have a very interesting third final act here to discuss. And you made an observation earlier about how some of the scenes are just physically dark and they were at night, like the meeting and, of course, what's going to happen here at the end and some other things. Some of the things I think, though, are very interesting, kind of going back just for a moment, is it was interesting to me when the Indians during the funeral at the very beginning gave him the hatchet, because we kind of know that's going to end up somewhere where he's like, hey, I think I can use this somewhere. But what I thought was interesting is they kind of symbolize what the group turns out to be. It's like all their different Indian nation tribes that are around there as respect to get together, right? So it makes me wonder if something like that's going to happen there, and that's just a foreshadowing, right? It's subtle, but it's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're almost wondering if it's going to happen this episode or next episode, because they want revenge. Bodhi wants revenge. And like, we only have one episode left for the season finale. So, I mean, like, if they do everything here, and like, what's left? What's left for the last episode? Because it's been building up to this moment, and like I said, like, is there going to be a character death? What's going to go on? So basically, we do get kind of a very crazy episode toward the end of here.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I wanted to mention was I briefly mentioned how I thought it was interesting finally that they get Dana Delany's character to. We see that obviously she has a financial stake in what's going on there with the Triad taking over, and even though Armand plays a sniveling idiot really, really, really well, it's you get this kind of idea of like, damn it, he's good at what he does. If he's gone, would I miss him? But he's so good at being that guy, right? Because there's always that one guy like that, right? And to me, what I found very interesting were two things with this whole exchange with Cal Thresher and Dana Delany at the farm, where he's basically saying, hey, no, you need to set up this sit down because of the money and all that. And not only does she tell Dwight that, Stallone's daughter, I don't even remember her name. I call her the barista because that's how we introduced her in season 1. She had got promoted because Armand had come in drunk and was berating her and got fired. And that's when he went on the bender and stole the money. But I thought, okay, why is it that all of a sudden she's just leaving? I mean, unless that's just like a writing, because personally she doesn't have a commitment to the show for season 3 for whatever reason. I don't know. I just thought that they were slowly keeping her in the background and going to do something with her, because some of the other characters I think are going to be that way too, but it's there. That's intentional. You see what I'm saying? I kept
thinking that maybe she's talking about she's sort of leaving and she's too much too stress for her. Is that maybe the actress that wants to leave the series, or it's a red herring?
I
because
feel like it's got to be a red herring. That's a subtle pivot they threw in there just for now, is how I'm taking it. And
it's
so to me, I'm like, really, guys, you couldn't have given her like another, literally one more minute of screen time and made it a bit more organic. It just felt a little forced to me.
right. So, like I said, because remember, because she's working at this, and then she probably wants to go to school. Who knows? I'm talking about the not the actress. I'm talking about the actual
Character.
character, but because she's around on that age, college age. And so so I mean that's just thrown in. I think just throw a red hanging for you because they want you to keep guessing, and I feel like the way this is written, they want you to like, okay, I like certain things happen in this episode. I called it from the very
You
like
did.
3 or 4 episodes in. I was like, okay, they got to do this, got that. If they don't do this, I feel like they're purposely writing it so that you think you know what's going on because you don't know what's going to happen at the last episode, and that's the curveball, and I love that. Like, yeah, I know what's going to happen. This is going to hear, and then like, okay, wait, that happened. Why did it happen? You shouldn't have done that. No,
right?
And then you're like, but what's going to happen now because of this? And that's exactly what happens in this episode. Armand ends up taking, Triad boy and his men sneaking up onto the farm. And is it a dark time, so basically undercover, and they're going to take out Dwight because Dwight's with the old woman or the Delany. And as they're going there, and you get these awesome group shots because such wide angle lenses, everything, the whole property, the floodlights come on, there's crossfire, these Triad guys get killed except for Jackie King, or Ming, whatever they call him, and he's basically Bevilacqua and Cal Thresh, the Americans, they kind of leave and they take him into the barn, the stables, and then we see him, he's tied up, he's gagged, and then you see a hole in the ground, in the floor. I'm like, oh shit! And then Tyson's in there with Stallone. Stallone, remember that tomahawk we saw in the beginning? He pulls it out, and he's like, dude, like, this is Tyson, kill him. It's justified. He tried to kill you. Now you're killing him. And Tyson, it's the moment to shine because like Tyson at this point has not killed anybody. He's innocent. No blood on his hands. He shot a guy, but he didn't murder him. So now this is going to weigh on his conscience. And remember how Mitch had said, the minute you kill someone, you're going to see their eyes forever.
Yes.
And so, and you see the fear in Tyson's eyes. He hesitates. He doesn't want to do it. So then he takes after Dwight talks to him, and it's kind of like what would happen if he would have said no to Dwight? Would Dwight understand and just do it himself? Were there consequences? Because so far Dwight's been really kind. We haven't seen a mean side of him. He's not like where Chickie will just like execute a guy for disagreeing with him.
True.
And so Tyson takes it, swings it, splits the guy in the down the forehead. The blood splat hits Mitch in the face, which I thought was hilarious. Like Mitch is like, ugh. It's like,
yeah, pretty boy.
Yeah, pretty boy, get covered in blood. And then they put him in the hole, and then they bury. It's like, and he goes, and I hope Dwight goes over to the horse. He's like, looks like you got a new buddy, new stable partner, comfortable. They bury him, and like he goes and but before Dwight leaves, Armand walks into the stable, and everyone's like, "Oh, Goody's ready to pull his gun and shoot him." He's like, Dwight's like, "No. He's the reason we got this son of a bitch." And we get a flashback when someone showed up at Dwight's house. It was Armand on his knees begging for his life. Dwight was ready, had a gun to his head, ready to pull the trigger, and then Dwight's sister stepped in and said no. So then he had to change of heart. So then he said, "This is what you're going to do." It was Dwight's plan. They'll have him go, convince the guy, they'll lead him into a trap so they can kill him. And Armand, basically Dwight said to Armand, "You didn't kill anybody. There's, so you could still be useful. I'm not going to kill you." So he kind of forgave him, and like he said, "You do this for me. Our slate is clean, wiped clean." So Armand no longer needs owes him any money. So I don't know if Armand's exiting the show whatsoever, but he's basically free to go after this. After he from the stable, they let him go, and so that's the big reveal of that with Armand. He's the reason why it all went down. And the other thing is that Dwight goes into the house. You see Jamie Delany all hot and bothered. She's like, mission accomplished? Like, oh yeah. He's like, I'm gonna go take a shower. He's like, you better hurry up because they're gonna have sex. Basically implying it. She was we went wild play for him. But the other thing, how it ends, because we talked about Chickie. Chickie's on a train headed to Tulsa. And we get to see this scene, the scene of the camera outside the window. You see him, and you see him just looking out the window all the time while it's going by.
That's the pensive shot.
Yeah,
the Dark Shadows revival shot.
What is going on with Chickie? Is Chickie going to be involved next episode? As far as like, is he gonna go and crazy to be the big bad villain and try to take out Dwight?
Well, you mentioned how the show puts in a few red herrings and tries to keep you off balance in directions. That's one of the negative things about this particular last bit of it, even though there's some interesting things. So the whole thing with Chickie, and then I'll back up and talk a little bit about the shootout. With Chickie, the implication is that, first of all, when you're with the family, you do what they tell you. You can't say, no, I'm not going to do it, right? So with Chickie, they're basically saying, hey, we got something for you. Chickie knows he has to do it because he can't fly. He obviously has to take the train. So basically, he's like, I want him fucking dead. And they basically said, they didn't really say anything about his vendetta because as far as the family is concerned, it's just business. They want that area of business for themselves. So the implication here is that whether Dwight's dead or not, they want that area. They want to expand. And they basically just said, hey, Dwight makes money. So it's not, we don't care that he's living or dead. They don't say it, but they imply it. But I will agree with the way you described it in a different way. I'll sit there and say, it's not very clear what the constraints are that they put on Chickie as far as the decision making to get this job done, and that leaves it open for season 3, right?
Yeah.
So okay, that's fine. But here's the other thing: when we had the big shootout fight, it was pretty intense, very graphic in season 1. This one feels like a dime store version of that one. Not only is it at night, and it's in the horse trailer, which of course sounds really good because there's some shooting and some shots fired. It's not very extended. They don't play it out. It's over really quick. I don't have a problem with that. They hit the lights, they walk out, and you see it's Dwight and his crew. And when they're walking up, I'm like, okay, this is just kind of lame. It wasn't very exciting. The only interesting thing of them walking up to the lead guy who didn't die, and the reason why he didn't is because he goes, nice shot. When I forget the girl's name, there, the one that has half a shaved head, Grace. It's nice. He's like, nice shot, Grace. You didn't kill him. And she's just looking like she's really happy, like, hey, I did something good. And I thought that's cute because I said I think potentially she could be a very interesting character. The way
she was so jittery, nervous. She was afraid. She had social anxieties. Now she has self-confidence.
Yes, and I like that, but it's like they just glossed over. And like I say, when you have so many characters, it's hard to give them, and you don't have to give them equal footing, but it's hard to keep them relevant when you're not thinking about it. And I honestly felt like the whole thing, even though we had it in season 1, we had it 2, where we had him 1-2 steps ahead of everybody. That's cool, but just this whole thing with Armand, I'm going, I know he did just sell it. I know he brought the money back, the $500,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah, he sold it.
And it allowed you to get what you're going, but you still can't trust the bastard.
No, you
so
can't.
I hope he's not around or something happens. So to me, he's still dead meat. What do you think?
Well, he may be taken out by
Chickie.
Chickie maybe, or or even Cal or Bill, because you can't trust him. Goody's not going to whack him. Tyson though, Tyson might though if the guy gets in his face, because now Tyson basically killed the guy. Tyson may like it.
All right, so this brings us to the last episode where they're going to probably just give us a few things to like lean on and all that. I will say this because I have very little predictions. You've been spotting with yours, so I'm curious to hear yours. We did see briefly in a few episodes, but not for an episode or two, the quote unquote FBI pair that had been the dudes that were that had the wiretap going on in BB's office that just was there and put in at the beginning.
Yes,
I feel like that's going to come into play in the next episode.
It will. Especially because, Bevilacqua and Cal met inside they originally talked there. So they're implemented as far as the triads and all that stuff. But as far as them meeting in the car and then meeting with Manfredi, we didn't see anybody out there. Not that we weren't showing anybody that they
Right.
weren't taking photos.
Right.
You know.
So where does it go for this next episode? What do you, give me some predictions?
Like I said,
And tell me why you have them.
the FBI's got to be involved somehow. Otherwise, they're just kind of another red herring to make you guess. You know. We might get like I said, I'm hoping we get a new tough director of the FBI, because we had the girl who was sleeping with them, but she wasn't really she was a pushover.
I thought she had the potential to be very interesting, and I really thought they'd bring her back, and they didn't. I
think she might be brought back at a later episode, maybe.
Okay.
So here's the other thing: is we got Jamie Delany, her secret relationship with Cal, or not anymore, because she told him about Cal helped her out and collected her money, and so. Yeah, there might be more stuff with that, but as far as Chickie is the tricky question, because Chickie was sent out there basically to talk to Dwight, because without Dwight, they have no money coming in from Tulsa. There's no Tulsa without Dwight, confronting him. I think Chickie's going to go his own way. I think Chickie might actually die. Who knows? Or at least try to kill Dwight. Or.
Well, as for predictions, not three possibilities. No, come on, man.
I know. My other prediction is that basically that Dwight kills Chickie, and all. But
I feel like somebody on Dwight's team's got to get got.
Or
I don't know who or what.
Or here's the other thing: we find out that Chickie's turned Fed. Chickie's working for the feds.
I would make you hate it even more, wouldn't you?
Oh, I hate it even more. It'd be like if Chickie, like I said, because remember he got arrested, and he's on the radar. He wasn't at the sit down. So I don't know. Like it's if he just turned narc for the feds and actually got Dwight in trouble. But
that just doesn't seem realistic for a guy that was where he was at.
It's either he's gonna team up with Dwight and join Dwight's crew. Wouldn't that be something?
I get it. I just don't see it. He's too good.
Or he's going to take over Bevilacqua's crew.
That's what I was wondering, if he would form a relationship with those two, thinking, "Hey, if I can get these guys straight, and give them some leadership."
Yeah, because Bill hates Dwight.
Yeah,
but he doesn't want
to get back at him and do that is to run the business. That's where I think Chickie's going. I think he's going to end up kind of being the boss of Thresher and BB. Yeah. I feel like that's how it's going to be.
Yep.
God, this is so soap opera. I know what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Look, it's a solid episode. It was kind of one notice for me. It seems like they were just interested in getting to the end. I just felt like it was a little rushed. It just a little sloppy in some spots. Not a bad thing, but that's just how I see it.
There's a lot of left unknowns. They could do something totally crazy in the last episode, and like I said, okay, that's where they're going. I had no idea, because right now we have no idea. It's like you took down the sub boss, I guess. Now they get the final boss fight. Yeah,
and that's like kind of early. It's like, well, I beat the main boss. Why do I got to fight? The sub boss.
You said you've been waiting for somebody to step up to be like the big alpha rival to Manfredi,
and it hasn't happened.
But Chickie's set free from the family now, so now he doesn't have to listen to the New York. He can start making his own moves.
I'm not ashamed to say it, but even though Chickie's a bad guy, I still am holding out hope they can do it. And damn it, Chickie, you better not disappoint me when you have this coming out party. That's all I'm going to sit there and say. Put a lot on you.
We thought Cal Thresher was going to be this big old bad guy. No,
he's not.
No.
He's a glorified accountant.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Good old boy. With investments, and then you had Frank Grillo comes in. Like you said, a lot of these guys, they think they're bad, but you don't see them. It's like when you watch Justified, you had a guy. I forgot his name, actor's name, but he's a black guy. Basically, he ran a hog farm.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who disagreed with them, they went missing. And the hogs were never hungry.
I know.
You literally felt scared from this guy. Raylan, when he walked up, he's like, "Shit!" And I was like, "I gotta go talk to this guy again. I hate this guy." And you had all these other con artist guys that basically began becoming informants for Raylan, because Raylan says either you help me or you go to jail. You know, it's like, and then it's like, and some were like, I'd choose jail. So, like I said, it's a tongue in cheek humor they have with this, but it's also some seriousness as well.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we get more seriousness. Seems like lately we've been getting a lot of like laughs, you know. But like, Chickie needs to step up. He needs to be the rival to Manfredi, you know, because this is turning into basically like a Welcome Back, Cotter.
They're my sweat hawks.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for season 2, episode 9 of Tulsa King. We got the final episode, and we'll talk about potential season 3 predictions after we review that, and just touch on the season next week here on the Extreme Movie Show. We have a new poll up, RDV.
Yep, we got Arsenic and Old Lace with Cary Grant, and then we have The Spirit of St. Louis with Jimmy Stewart from the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go into the 1960s with Frank Sinatra and Ocean's 11. So 40s, 50s, or 60s. We got one from each decade.
I see what you did there, sir. Yeah, so the vote's live, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys getting their vote there. We just got a bunch of votes now as we just posted and everything else there too. Anything else you need to cover?
Nope, that's it. Just guys, stay tuned to see what we'll be doing on Tuesday. Probably some more movie reviews, or maybe we'll dive into Justified. We don't know.
All right. There you guys have it. Yeah. Thanks for watching, listening. Have a good night. And as always, stay extreme.